his energy. So we have got so big potential and strategy. We have got chance and opportunity. So why not, for example, Nabucco project where Georgia is involved? So nowadays it will be safer for us if just one moment think that it is very important for us and we can do it. So that means why don't we do it? So nowadays, at the first time, I can say that August War was the most good example, was a big example for example, Georgia and for Europe, that we are dependent when we are dependent on each other. So I can say that in the end, if we will be ready for this step, there won't be any country, especially for example Russia, to disturb us in this process. So we can be involved and we will be involved in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. It's time for the questions.
Okay. Papa,
Yes, thank you. I have such a question. Do you think that stability in our country is the major factor for becoming Georgia the main transit route for European countries? Stability in our country and democratic development and so on and so on. Not only geopolitical situation, the geopolitical advantages.
Yes, of course. Thank you. But at first I won't say that, and I will say that Europe is dependent in this situation in Iran and on Iran and on Russia. So that means that for Georgia and for Europe, it's most important to be involved in this process. So what you say that for Europe, it's most important to have a strategical and security here in Georgia. So that means that if we do that, and for example, in 2 or 3 years, it will be possible for us to be involved in this process. Thank you.
Next question, please.
No. Please, I'm sorry. Victor.
Last Minister Giorgadze, regarding Russia's influence, how do you think, will Georgia still be able to become a transit country? Will Russia let this happen?
What will
In the Nabucco project, will Russia let Georgia get involved in this?
Oh, that's why I'm talking about Europe. That's why I'm talking about the main role of Georgia. Maybe Russia can say that, no, I don't want Georgia to be involved in this process, but nowadays it depends only on us. If we will be ready for this, it means that Russia wants to do anything in this situation, and if for Europe it's most important to Georgia be involved in this process, it means that Russia won't do anything, I'm sure. Thank
The
you.
last question, please.
Natia Giorgadze.
My question is about, I don't argue that it's bilaterally beneficial, the transit routes, but what about the fact that the projects like Nabucco, a light stream, hasn't been started yet, and should NATO take into consideration the fact that there are possibilities of diversion acts by Russia, or what do you think? Is it stable Georgia for these routes?
Thank you. In the Cold War, there were 2 poles. There was one America and there was the second one, Russia. So nowadays, when Russia is doing the things that he wants to prove that he is one in this world and he's got very big potential and power, so that means that America should prove him that he is the one. So nowadays, by helping NATO, America and the members of this organization can help Georgia to become one of the most greatest, for example, countries nowadays, and say to Russia that he is not doing anything and everything he wants.
Thank you. Please, members of the jury, do you have any questions? Thank you.
afternoon. Once more, I'm arguing that Georgia should not become one of the major energy transit routes for NATO member European countries, and because Georgia is located in the region which is politically very unstable. There are a lot of problems in this region, in South Caucasus, such as Abkhazia conflict, South Ossetia, Arabakh conflict, and the tensions between Turkey and Armenia. So, in spite of the fact that Georgia is strategically very important country, it would not be always reliable supplier for the European countries. Because Russia has a very large influence over this region, and it has the leverages against our country, definitely. And every single destabilization in South Caucasus will influence on energy supply. So it would not be so reliable source. Then, if we think about Nabucco project, which will have its mainstream from Iran, yes, and Central Asia, then we see that Russia-Iran relations are far better than NATO-Iran relations. So it will influence the supply. Then finally, as Europe gets its main mineral resources from Russia import, it will never become thoroughly independent from Russia, and so it would have always some kind of leverages against this energy channel. Then Russia is one of the main actors in the world, so it never let Georgia to become so secure place to become really reliable energy transit. So by becoming Georgia one of the major energy transit routes for NATO member European countries will make the situation in this region much hotter. Thank you.
Thank you. It's now time for the questions, so please, Mr. President.
Yeah. It's Ketevan Mamadashvili.
Please.
Then Natia Giorgadze, and then YATA.
Ketevan Mamadashvili. So what do you want to say, that we should stop on one stage and, for example, don't become the members of NATO, and we have to stay as slaves of Russia? How do you think?
No, I'm not saying that we should stop, but I'm saying that we will not be so such a major energy transit which provides the whole time supply for European countries. European countries are dependent on Russia, and it needs its diversity, its sources, in order to get to have some kind of it needs to have the provide the supply all over the years. So we won't be so reliable transit country, I think, because we are dependent on Russia. They are also dependent on Russia, and also. So, but no, I'm not saying that.
Next question, please.
Natia Giorgadze.
Tamar Babaladze. What do you think about the new start in relationships of Armenia and Turkey? And do you think that it will change it can be the alternative route for energy supply in Europe?
Yes, I think maybe Armenia, if there will be, it will be, Armenia will another transitive country through Turkey, but I think Turkey-Armenia relations will not, but it is not short, long-term position, so maybe it would become.
YATA, and this last question.